Have you ever wondered, what if the less you chase someone, the more you actually pull them closer to you? Imagine being able to stay vividly alive in someone's mind, not by texting, not by calling, not by forcing anything, but simply by the silent power of your own energy. Most people's first instinct when someone starts pulling away is to panic, to chase, to insist. It's almost automatic. This deep fear of losing the connection pushes us into doing the exact opposite of what we should. We bombard with messages, create excuses to meet, or desperately seek some way, any way, to stay relevant in their world. But what if everything we've been taught about connection is wrong? Carl Jung, in his book, The Undiscovered Self, wrote, "Man's worst sin is unconsciousness. When we act out of fear without awareness, we sow the seeds of our own despair. Fear pushes, fear suffocates. Fear makes us cling, and this clinging energy is felt, even if not consciously recognized. It creates a kind of emotional pressure that causes the other person to instinctively seek distance, even without fully understanding why. The real secret to lasting emotional connection does not lie in physical presence or constant contact. It lies in mastering a deeper, almost invisible force, silent internal magnetism, a magnetic field that is generated not by what you do, but by what you are, by the energy you radiate, calmly, confidently, authentically, without trying to impose, chase, or control. In this video, we're going to explore how you can build that magnetic power within yourself. You'll discover how to shift your energy from anxious to abundant. You'll learn a profound technique called Empathic Projection and how it can silently and powerfully create emotional resonance. We'll also dive into the critical importance of conscious detachment, the subtle science of the energetic echo you leave behind, and the nightly ritual that will anchor your energy into a field of irresistible attraction. This isn't magic. This isn't manipulation. This is mastering the laws of emotional and energetic resonance in the most natural and powerful way possible. So, if you're ready to become someone they can't stop thinking about without ever chasing them again, stay with me until the end. Because once you understand this, everything about connection will change for you, forever. When someone you care about begins to emotionally distance themselves, the immediate reaction that stirs within most people is a desperate urgency, a frantic impulse that feels almost instinctive, as if something vital were slipping through their fingers. The mind races, bombarded with anxious questions. What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? What can I say or do to make them come back? And under the weight of this internal chaos, many end up believing that the solution lies in doing more, reaching out more, pushing harder to re-establish the fading bond. However, what we often fail to perceive is that every act of chasing, no matter how well-intentioned or subtle, carries within it a silent but powerful energy, an energy of need, of emotional dependency, that does not pull the other person closer, but rather creates an invisible force of repulsion. Emotional chasing, at its core, transforms the natural flow of connection into an atmosphere heavy with expectation, burdening the other person with the unspoken but deeply felt demand. Complete me, validate me, make me feel safe. Carl Jung, in his profound work, The Undiscovered Self, warns us with striking clarity. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. Addiction in the emotional sense is no less destructive. When someone's attention, affection, or presence becomes the narcotic you depend on to feel whole, you unknowingly chain them to a role they never consciously agreed to fulfill. This silent expectation, rather than inviting closeness, generates a pressure that the other, even without fully understanding why, instinctively seeks to escape. We are, at our very essence, beings who crave expansion, lightness, freedom, and any relationship that begins to feel like an obligation to maintain someone's emotional balance naturally breeds resistance and withdrawal. It's critical to recognize that the dynamics at play here operate far beneath the surface of conscious thought. You could be saying all the right words, offering thoughtful gestures, acting out of genuine care, but if the energy driving those actions is rooted in fear, insecurity, or desperation, it will be felt intuitively before anything is logically processed. Emotional energy communicates faster and more profoundly than any message you could ever craft. Jung, deepening this perspective in The Undiscovered Self, explains, projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. When you project neediness and fear, the world, and the person you desire, reflects it back to you not out of cruelty, but because vibrationally, like attracts like. Conversely, when you stand rooted in self-trust, wholeness, and inner abundance, you project a resonance that invites others to be drawn to you without effort, without pressure, without manipulation. Picture yourself walking into a room where two people sit quietly. One appears tense, restless, craving acknowledgement. The other exudes calmness, a serene and magnetic presence that seems almost luminous. Without exchanging a single word, your body, your subconscious, your very nervous system would lean instinctively toward the calm presence, seeking the refuge, the expansion, and the silent invitation that radiates from their being. This is not magic. It is deep emotional biology at work. This is precisely why chasing doesn't merely fail. It actively destroys the very connection you are desperate to save. It weighs down the space between you and the other person, turning what once felt light, free, and joyful into something heavy, anxious, and suffocating. And nobody, absolutely nobody, falls in love with a weight. We fall in love with the sensation of freedom, the feeling that being with someone expands our world, nourishes our soul, and liberates our spirit. Once you truly understand this, the question inside you changes forever. No longer will you ask, what else can I do to keep them? Instead, a deeper and far more powerful inquiry will arise. How can I embody the energy that naturally calls them back to me? This subtle yet radical shift, from desperately doing to silently being, is the beginning of real enduring connection. The cornerstone of silent attraction, that powerful, almost mystical force that keeps you alive in someone's mind, without any visible effort, is not rooted in strategies, tricks, or manipulations. It begins and ends with the quality of your own energy. When you chase, when you crave, when you cling, the energy you emit is frantic, fragmented, and unstable. But when you shift from emotional dependency to inner fullness, everything changes, not just in how you feel, but in how others feel you, often without even understanding why. Carl Jung, in his autobiographical masterpiece, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Becoming who you truly are means reconnecting with the untouched, unbreakable core within you, the part that does not need external validation to feel complete. When you operate from this center, you stop sending signals of lack. Instead, your energy radiates wholeness, peace, and profound security, and people, at a level far deeper than the rational mind, are drawn irresistibly to that. The truth is, we are always broadcasting who we are emotionally, even when we say nothing. Your energy field, your vibrational signature, is constantly speaking for you. It precedes your words, your gestures, even your presence. And emotional energy is profoundly contagious. Calmness breeds calmness. Confidence invites curiosity. Serenity magnetizes attention. If your internal world is dominated by fear, by self-doubt, by frantic need, that dissonance creates a field that others instinctively move away from. Not because they consciously choose to, but because their emotional system senses the instability and seeks a safer, more expansive resonance. But when you make a daily commitment to cultivate inner peace, self-love, and genuine emotional abundance, you become a silent beacon, without forcing, without seeking, without grasping. Transforming your energy does not mean pretending to be calm while feeling desperate inside. It means doing the real work, facing your fears, healing your wounds, learning to soothe your own heart, and remembering that you are already complete, with or without the other person's validation. Imagine for a moment someone whose very presence feels like a sanctuary, someone who, by simply existing, seems to make the air feel lighter. Your heart beats steadier, your soul feels safer. That kind of magnetism is not performed, it is lived, and it is born from the deep, patient cultivation of your own inner world. Jung's wisdom reminds us again and again Transformation does not happen through external conquest, but through internal integration. The parts of yourself that you abandon in your desperation to be loved are precisely the parts that, when reclaimed, make you unforgettable. In essence, the more whole you become internally, the less you need to chase anyone externally. And, paradoxically, the more others will naturally find themselves thinking about you, missing you and gravitating back toward your silent but unmistakable pull. At the heart of silent attraction lies a practice both subtle and powerful, one that taps into the invisible threads that connect human emotions beyond words, actions, or physical presence. The art of empathetic projection. Unlike what many might assume, projecting empathically is not about controlling someone's mind, nor about sending obsessive thoughts toward them. It is a delicate, intentional act of emotional attunement, a silent and sacred communion where you mentally step into the inner world of the other, not to manipulate, but to understand, respect, and vibrationally harmonize with their being. Carl Jung, in his profound exploration Psychological Types, wrote, "Understanding does not cure evil, but it is a definite help, inasmuch as one can cope with a comprehensible darkness." In the context of relationships, this wisdom is essential. When you deeply understand someone's emotional landscape without judgment or need, you stop feeding the darkness of fear and control, and instead create a light of genuine connection. True empathetic projection begins with humility, the willingness to see the other not as an object of your desire, but as a sovereign soul with their own fears, dreams, struggles, and inner complexities. The process itself is simple yet profound. Each day, find a moment of stillness. Sit quietly, allowing your mind and body to relax into a state of deep emotional calm, because any projection done from a place of anxiety only perpetuates more anxiety. It is crucial that you enter this state anchored in peace, self-trust, and unconditional regard for the other person's autonomy. Once centered, begin to imagine the other person's daily life, not through the lens of your own expectations, but by gently stepping into their shoes. Picture them waking up, going about their routines, feeling their hopes, facing their doubts, moving through their moments of joy and difficulty. Feel their human experience without imposing your desires onto it. And from this place of genuine empathy, allow a single subtle visualization to arise. Imagine that in some quiet moment of their day, they spontaneously think of you. Not forced, not demanded, not even with specific emotions attached, just a natural, effortless recollection of your presence, like a gentle breeze stirring old memories or evoking warm feelings. This visualization should be brief, no longer than 5 minutes, and done with an open heart that expects nothing in return. The secret here is non-attachment. The more you try to force an outcome, the more you energetically entangle yourself in neediness, which only blocks the silent flow of connection you are trying to cultivate. Empathetic projection is not about making someone do anything. It is about planting seeds of resonance in the fertile soil of the emotional field. Some seeds sprout immediately, others need time. Trust the natural rhythm. Carl Jung's insight into the unconscious mind is vital here. In Psychological Types, he describes how the unconscious operates beyond the constraints of rationality, perceiving and responding to emotional vibrations long before the conscious mind ever catches up. Thus, when you project from a state of pure empathy and emotional fullness, you are speaking directly to the other person's deeper layers, bypassing their defenses, reaching their emotional core in ways that logical persuasion could never achieve. There is a profound dignity in this kind of silent connection, because it honors not just your own heart, but the sacredness of the other person's freedom. In doing so, you create the space for them to feel you, not as an obligation, not as a pressure, but as an inexplicable pull, a sense of presence that lingers quietly, warmly, irresistibly throughout their day. Done consistently, sincerely, and without attachment, this practice becomes a silent song that only the heart can hear. And once heard, it is very difficult to forget. Perhaps one of the most paradoxical and yet most essential keys to silent magnetism lies in the art of conscious detachment. After planting the seed of emotional resonance through practices like empathetic projection, the natural human impulse is often to wait anxiously for signs, to monitor, to expect immediate responses. However, it is precisely this anxious waiting, this clinging to outcomes, that silently strangles the very energetic bridge you have begun to build. Carl Jung, in his timeless work, Modern Man in Search of a Soul, reminds us, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Detachment, therefore, is not an act of giving up nor a cold withdrawal of feeling. It is the organic maturing of your emotional landscape, the recognition that true connection cannot be forced, controlled or hurried, but must unfold naturally, nurtured by freedom rather than suffocated by demand. When you project energy from a place of attachment, from the desperate hope that someone will feel, think, or act in a certain way, you energetically bind yourself to them, but not with the cords of love or mutual resonance. Instead, you bind with the heavy chains of fear, expectation, and subtle emotional manipulation. And no heart thrives under chains. Conscious detachment means trusting the process you have initiated, allowing the seed of connection to grow at its own pace, in its own time, without constant digging, watering, and uprooting driven by impatience. It means releasing not just the other person, but yourself, from the exhausting need to control outcomes. It means believing with profound faith that the emotional echo you have left behind is already doing its quiet, invisible work within them. Imagine the vast unseen networks of roots beneath a forest floor. Long before any shoots break through the surface, intricate webs of connection, nourishment, and life are already forming underground. The wise gardener does not stand over the soil demanding that the seed sprout immediately. He knows that life moves according to rhythms far deeper than the impatient mind can grasp. In the same way, when you detach consciously, you allow the emotional resonance you've created to settle, to deepen, to grow naturally inside the other person's heart, often without them even realizing why. They begin to think of you more often, feel waves of unexplained longing, or experience a sudden softening of their emotional defenses. Carl Jung's concept of the individuation process, beautifully articulated in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, highlights this truth. The individual must give up the infantile wish to be cared for and protected. He must assume responsibility for himself. Emotional detachment, then, is a step into true emotional adulthood. It is no longer clinging to another for your sense of safety, identity, or completion. It is standing whole within yourself and trusting that what is meant to resonate will do so naturally, without force, without manipulation, and without fear. There is a kind of elegance, almost a quiet nobility in detachment. It is the invisible fragrance of those who are so deeply connected to their own center that they no longer need to chase anything outside of themselves. And paradoxically, it is this very self-sufficiency that draws others irresistibly closer. When you master conscious detachment, you stop chasing connection, and you start becoming connection itself. A living, breathing field of magnetism that invites, inspires, and enchants silently, effortlessly, profoundly. One of the most fascinating, and yet least understood, aspects of human connection is that energy does not simply disappear once it is created. Much like the resonance of a bell that continues to vibrate long after it has been struck, emotional energy leaves behind traces, subtle but powerful, that can linger within the emotional body of another long after physical presence or communication has ceased. Carl Jung, in his groundbreaking work, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, explored the mysterious ways in which psychic imprints persist and influence the inner world. The psyche is far from being a homogeneous unit. It is a world in itself, populated by living forms. Every emotional interaction, every genuine exchange of feeling, leaves an imprint within this inner world. And when that energy is cultivated consciously, with purity, serenity, and authenticity, it creates what we might call an emotional echo. This echo continues to vibrate in the background of the other person's awareness, often bypassing their logical mind and reaching directly into their emotional core. When you have worked intentionally on transforming your own energy, grounding yourself in self-love, confidence, and emotional fullness, the resonance you leave behind is not one of neediness or desperation, but one of warmth, lightness, and mysterious magnetism. It is felt not as pressure, but as an invitation, not as a demand, but as a memory that stirs gently at unexpected moments. The eco-energetico you create does not scream, it whispers. It does not chase, it lingers, like the faint fragrance of a beloved perfume long after the wearer has left the room. And it is precisely in this subtlety, in this absence of force, that its power lies. Jung's insights into the unconscious show us that much of what truly moves us is not what is consciously perceived, but what vibrates just beneath the threshold of awareness. Thus, when the emotional echo you leave is infused with purity, gratitude, and genuine wholeness, it becomes part of the unconscious landscape of the other person, resurfacing in their emotions, dreams, and sudden, inexplicable memories. Imagine for a moment sitting quietly, and without warning, a thought of someone crosses your mind. Not because you saw them, not because you spoke to them, but simply because their emotional signature is still gently vibrating within you. This is the silent song of emotional resonance. This is the living proof that true connection is never truly severed by time or distance when it is rooted in authentic energy. Importantly, the strength and beauty of the emotional echo depend not on intensity but on consistency and purity. It is not about overwhelming the other with a flood of emotional waves. It is about leaving a single, clean, resonant note, a note so aligned with truth, peace, and love that it continues to reverberate long after you have stepped back. Carl Jung, reflecting on the mysterious processes of the unconscious in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, observed, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature, it is also the source of the highest good, not only dark but also light, not only bestial, semi-human and demonic, but superhuman, spiritual, and, in the classical sense of the word, divine." When you connect with someone from your higher self, the serene, centered, luminous part of you, the energy you leave behind becomes a catalyst for light within them, a subtle but persistent reminder of what it feels like to be seen, felt, and loved without conditions. Thus, in the invisible dance of human connection, it is not the loudest who are remembered, but the ones who touch the soul with such purity that their presence remains, echoing quietly, long after they have gone. If the emotional echo you leave behind is the silent song that continues to resonate within another's heart, then your own emotional state is the instrument that must be finely tuned each day. Without conscious maintenance of your inner vibration, even the most powerful practices risk becoming mechanical or diluted over time. That is why establishing a daily emotional focus practice is not just important, it is essential. Carl Jung, in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, pointed to the vital importance of inner alignment when he said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Each night, just before sleep, that sacred threshold where consciousness and unconsciousness blend, is the perfect time to recalibrate your emotional field. It is in this liminal space that your subconscious is most receptive, your defenses are lowered, and your vibrational imprint can be most effectively renewed and reinforced. Begin by entering a state of deep relaxation, allowing your breath to slow naturally, your body to sink heavily into comfort, and your mind to soften its habitual grasp on worries and narratives. In this softened state, bring your focus gently to emotions of peace, gratitude, and serene joy, not as concepts to be forced, but as feelings to be summoned and cultivated like a quiet inner flame. Feel the safety of your own being. Feel the abundant beauty already present in your life. Feel the profound wholeness that exists within you, independent of any external circumstance or person. Once you have anchored yourself in this elevated emotional state, bring to mind the person you wish to remain vibrationally connected to, not with longing, not with need, but with pure, expansive love. Imagine them living their life peacefully, surrounded by goodness, touched by joy. See them smiling, thriving, free, And then, from this space of pure emotional abundance, simply allow yourself to feel the connection between you, not as a desperate reaching, but as a silent, luminous thread of mutual recognition, timeless and effortless. Importantly, do not visualize outcomes, do not demand specific results. The purpose of this nightly ritual is not to control or manipulate, but to keep your own vibrational field aligned with the emotional resonance of love, peace, and fullness. When you consistently emit this frequency, you become a living magnet, drawing experiences, connections, and reflections that match the elevated quality of your own being. Carl Jung's teachings in Memories, Dreams, Reflections further illuminate this truth. The soul, like the body, lives by what it feeds on. If you feed your soul nightly with fear, anxiety, and lack, then your energy field weakens, becomes chaotic, and invites more of the same. But if you feed it with gratitude, serenity, and love, you fortify your field, making it coherent, vibrant, and irresistibly attractive. In time, you will notice subtle shifts, not only in the way others respond to you, but in how you feel about yourself. You will no longer be chasing connection, you will be embodying connection, and others will feel it even when you are silent, especially when you are silent. Thus, your daily emotional focus practice becomes more than a ritual. It becomes a way of being. A daily act of love, for yourself, for the invisible bonds that connect all hearts, and for the sacred mystery of life itself. In a world driven by instant gratification, it can feel almost unbearable to wait, to nurture something invisible, to trust a process whose results cannot be predicted or timed. Yet when it comes to creating lasting emotional resonance, when it comes to becoming a silent, magnetic presence in someone's mind and heart, consistency and patience are not optional. They are the very foundation upon which everything else rests. Carl Jung, in his monumental work, The Red Book, reflected deeply on the slow, often painful nature of real transformation. The way is not straight, but appears to go round in circles. It is not as we expect, but it happens. No one can spare himself the weight. True energetic influence is not the result of a single powerful visualization, a one-time emotional ritual, or a fleeting moment of high vibration. It is built through the quiet, almost imperceptible accumulation of aligned emotional states. Day after day, night after night, creating a vibrational field so stable, so coherent, that it becomes an undeniable presence in the emotional landscape of the other. Many give up far too soon. They plant the seed of connection. They tend it for a few days or weeks, and when they see no immediate signs, they declare the process broken, or worse, they fall back into patterns of fear, anxiety, and desperate chasing, unwittingly unraveling all the work they had so patiently begun. But emotional resonance is not a machine to be controlled. It is a living field, a living dance, governed by rhythms far deeper than the impatient mind can comprehend. Just as no flower blooms the moment after it is planted, no true emotional bond re-establishes itself through force or rush. Patience, in this context, is not passive waiting, it is active trust. It is choosing, every day, to remain aligned with your highest emotional self, even when the visible world offers no immediate validation. It is the quiet strength of one who understands that the most profound changes often happen underground, unseen, long before they ever become visible. Consistency, likewise, is not rigid repetition. It is faithful emotional cultivation. It is returning each day to your inner practices, your emotional focus, your state of gratitude, your conscious detachment. Not because you are desperate for a result, but because you have chosen to become a certain kind of energy, a certain kind of presence, no matter what. Carl Jung captured this beautifully in The Red Book when he wrote, "You must let it grow. You must be able to wait. You must be patient and gentle." Emotional resonance grows in silence. It grows in trust. It grows in the invisible spaces between actions. And when it finally emerges, often when you least expect it, it feels not like a sudden miracle, but like the natural blossoming of something that had been alive, maturing, evolving all along. Thus, consistency and patience are not merely techniques. They are the deeper initiations of the heart. They are the silent proof that you have moved beyond needing to control love, and have instead learned how to nurture it, honor it, and trust it to unfold according to its own sacred timing. When you live in this way, you stop asking, when will they think of me? Because you already know it is inevitable. It is already happening. It has been happening quietly all along. Throughout this journey, we have uncovered a profound truth, that the most powerful connections are not forged through force, nor maintained through constant presence, but are nurtured in the silent, sacred spaces of energy and emotion that exist beyond the visible. You have seen that chasing pushes people away, not because you are unworthy, but because desperate energy disrupts the natural rhythm of attraction. You have understood that true magnetism begins with the transformation of your own energy, cultivating a field of peace, self-love, and abundance that others can feel, even if they cannot explain it. You have learned the subtle but mighty art of empathetic projection, stepping quietly into another's world with deep respect, offering your energy not as a demand, but as an invitation. You have embraced the noble power of conscious detachment, trusting that what is real does not need to be chased or controlled, but will find its way back naturally through resonance. You have discovered the invisible yet enduring force of the emotional echo, the way pure energy lingers, resonates, and awakens forgotten memories and emotions in the hearts of those we touch. You have committed yourself to a daily practice of emotional alignment, feeding your soul not with fear or lack but with gratitude, peace, and serene joy. And you have recognized that it is not grand gestures nor fleeting efforts that build true influence, but the quiet consistency and patience of a heart aligned with its highest self. Carl Jung, whose wisdom has accompanied us throughout this journey, wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When you cultivate your inner world with love, when you commit to becoming peace itself, you do not need to force transformation. You become the catalyst for it. You become the magnetic field that inspires, that heals, that draws others, not because they are coerced, but because they feel deep within that something rare and beautiful is calling them home. This is not magic. This is not manipulation. This is the natural, inevitable outcome of living from your highest emotional truth. When you align with your authentic energy and trust the invisible rhythms of connection, you no longer ask, how can I make them think of me? Instead, you embody a knowing, I am already unforgettable. I am already present in their heart, and I did not need to chase, to plead, or to force, only to become. Thank you for walking this path with me today. If this message resonated with you, if you feel inspired to deepen your own journey of silent magnetism, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your energy, your journey, your presence, they matter. And together we continue creating a world where love flows naturally, silently, and powerfully. Until next time, keep shining from within.